Hey everyone, welcome back to Unorthodox Cricket. Now, quite a lot going on in the cricketing world at the moment, so let's get straight into it. Overnight, there was a game between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, Lasith Malinga's last game, so we'll have a look at that. Secondly, the game England vs Ireland. Unfortunately, Ireland couldn't get over the line in the end. Mohammad Amir's announced his international test match retirement overnight, which is a bit of a surprise. And the Australian Ashes squad's been named, so we'll take a look at a couple of the guys being picked for that team. There was also the Women's T20 Ashes on overnight. That was a great game, so we'll have a quick look at that. And then finally, Chris Gale's been picked in the West Indies squad to play India in the ODIs. Now, last night, Sri Lanka played Bangladesh in the first ODI since the World Cup. Sri Lanka batted first, scored 314 for 8, with Kusal Perera top scoring with 111. And in reply, Bangladesh fell quite short, 2-2-3 all out, with Lasith Malinga taking 3 for 38. Now, that's what everyone wanted. Lasith Malinga's last game, he's had such a great career over the last 15 years, and to see him perform and have one last great performance is just fantastic. He wrapped up the Bangladesh batsman, he just bowled phenomenally, and it just sums up his career really. Just what a player he's been for Sri Lanka, and hopefully he can inspire more young bowlers to come. He finishes his one-day international career with 338 wickets at an average of 28, but along with that, 378 wickets at 19 in T20 cricket with an economy of 7. So he's been one of the greatest bowlers of all time, no doubt. Probably for me the greatest exponent of the Yorker. A guy bowling with such a slingy action, no one really thought he could do it. A lot of coaches tried to change his action, and a lot of young guys have tried to replicate it over the years and have failed. So just what a career. Yeah, just such a good bowler. He got so many good change-ups, and he definitely improved them with age. But the Yorker, I remember him touring New Zealand when he was younger and just tearing us apart. Guys didn't know how to play him. Just the arm coming out from around the umpire. Umpires had to wear special sight screens basically. But yeah, he's just been a phenomenal player, and he really just shows that no matter what sort of action or technique you have, you can be successful in cricket if you trust your game. And I think he's going to inspire a lot of good people. But Lasith deserves a video on his own, so I'm going to leave it there. But well, yeah, what a great result for him to finish with last night. Now, just taking a look at the England vs Ireland one-off test match. Now, this was a really good preparation for England moving into the Ashes. However, I'm sure they're going to be pretty concerned about quite a few things going on in their team. So I was really hopeful for Ireland early on when they bowled England out for 85. Now, I thought there were some really loose shots in there from the English batsmen. Pretty weak, to be honest. The ball was moving around a lot, but guys were really loose with their shot selection. They didn't seem to want to grind it out. They kept on playing the shots and kept getting out. So a lot to be worked on there for England. In reply, Ireland scored 207. I thought they probably needed to push on a little bit more, as I thought England would come back in that second innings. And in return, England was saved actually. They made 303 in the end, but it was great thanks to Jack Leach, who was the night watchman opening the batting. Scored 92, both his highest test and first class score. And Jason Roy coming in at 3 with 72. Really saved England there. Otherwise, yet again, it was another pretty poor performance with the bat. The English, I'm sure, are really concerned about that. Not to say that the Ireland attack's not good, but it definitely doesn't have the venom of the Australian attack, which they're going to face in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, quite a few concerns for the English there. However, really positive with the ball. Obviously, in that second innings, they were defending 170-odd, and Chris Woakes and Stuart Broad went through the Irish. Broad picking up 4 for 19, and Chris Woakes with 6 for 17, so really impressive there. Heartbreaking for the Irish. I really thought they might get their first big upset in the Test arena. So yeah, England will be very worried. There's quite a few guys I'm not too sure about. One guy who I haven't seen a lot of, Roy Burns. His technique looks horrible, but in saying that, he's scored 8,500 first class runs at an average of 42, so he can obviously do it. But yeah, he looks horrible. His whole technique of wafting the bat round, and but as I say before, anyone with any sort of technique can get by. He just got to make sure he knows his game, and hopefully he doesn't get found out by the Australian bowling attack. So quite a few things to ponder there for the English moving into the Ashes. Yeah, particularly guys like Johnny Bairstow. He's been bowled quite a few times in the last couple of years. It's something he hasn't really corrected, so a lot for him to work on. He's obviously a gun ODI player, but to really push his test game to the next level, he's going to have to do something pretty special. But yeah, disappointing for Ireland. Pretty good game overall. The pitch was obviously doing quite a bit. But yeah, interesting to see where England go moving into the Ashes, but we'll leave it there, and I'll discuss their squad in a later video. So overnight, Mohammad Amir's announced his test retirement. Now that comes as quite a huge surprise. He's only 27 years old, and yeah, he's basically just said that he wants to focus on white ball cricket. I don't know. He's just got so much potential. He's never really fulfilled it at test level. Obviously, he came to the game really young, made that huge mistake of the spot fixing. I think we can all forgive him there. He was young. There were other older guys influencing him. And he's come back since then, and he's put performances on the board, and I think he's really tried to make amends for that mistake he made as a young guy. But yeah, as I say, he's 27, he's taken 119 test wickets at an average of 30, so I really think there was potential for him to take well into the 3, 4, 500 wickets column, and really push to be one of Pakistan's greatest ever bowlers. He's got such great figures to look up to, Imran Khan and Wasim Akram, and it would have just been great to see him have that real drive to push them and put his best performances on the board. But it's a real shame to lose him from Test cricket. For me, Test cricket is the purest form of the game, and I want to see all the best players playing that format. So to lose him at 27 is it's pretty sad, but at least we get to see him still in the 2020s and the one-day form of the game. But yeah, not a bad career, but I think he'll look back at the end of his time and maybe wonder what if he had played a bit more and probably done a bit more for Pakistan cricket, but that's his decision. So he's still got a lot to do for Pakistan, and I'm sure he's going to do great things for them. It's just sad to see him not play Test cricket, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him bowling as well as he did throughout the World Cup in the coming T20s and ODIs. So Australia have announced their Ashes squad overnight, so we'll take a quick look at that. So into the squad is Cameron Bancroft, Matthew Wade and Mitchell Marsh. Now missing out from previous series is Joe Burns and Curtis Patterson. Now for me, I think these two were both very unlucky. Joe Burns in his last test match scored 180, so to be dropped after that, I'd be pretty upset with that. And Curtis Patterson, he scored a ton. He's played 2 tests and he scored 100, so also unlucky for him. Unfortunately, they both just didn't score runs in the warm-up game. However, to replace them with the likes of Cameron Bancroft, I'm not so sure. Personally, I don't think he's a good cricketer, and I don't like the guy. I know he's apologised for his cheating and his whole influence in the sandpaper debate, but every interview I've seen with him, he doesn't seem to be particularly remorseful, tries to push the blame, and yeah, I just don't think he's a good cricketer, and I don't think he's a good person from what I've seen. Obviously, I don't know him, but from what I've seen, yeah, he hasn't really tried to make too much of an effort. Matthew Wade, great inclusion. Bit older, but he's got so much experience now, and he's been putting performances on the board for the last season, both in the List A form and in first class scene, so I think he was personally unlucky not to make the World Cup squad, but it's great to see him playing the Ashes. He really deserves that, and so does Mitchell Marsh. He's come back stronger. He performed in the warm-up games. He's performed for Australia A, both taking wickets and scoring runs, so I think Wade and Mitchell Marsh are highly deserved to be back in the squad. Not so much Cameron Bancroft. Joe Burns and Patterson a little bit unlucky. Now, obviously, as always, Australia is strong in the bowling department. It's pretty hard to beat their bowling attack. It's probably one of the best in the world. Stark, Patterson, Cummins, Nathan Lyon, and that's only just the start of it. There's so much strike power in there, a lot of gas, and guys who swing the ball. So that's going to be a huge task for the English batsmen, particularly after seeing them struggle against the Irish. However, an area I think the English can really expose is their batting. I don't think it's particularly strong. Obviously, it's led by David Warner, Steve Smith and Khawaja. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot. I don't put much trust in their top order. Don't put a lot of trust in Cameron Bancroft. Obviously, Wade's a good player, but he's coming back into the Test arena, and Mitchell Marsh down the order. But there's no genuine, real batsman outside of those three. I think the Australian captain, Tim Paine, is very lucky to make the team. That may be controversial. I know he's led them well since they've sort of gone through that tough last year. But as a wicketkeeper, yeah, he's good. As a batsman, not so much. He scored one first-class 100 in his whole career, and that was a double ton. Outside of that, he's never done it before. And I don't think you can have a wicketkeeper who's not capable of scoring hundreds in your team, especially when you've got guys like Matthew Wade sitting there. So I think they'll use Matthew Wade as a specialist batsman. However, there could be a case to drop Tim Paine and play Wade as the keeper. Now, I know they're probably not going to do that because Tim Paine's the captain. However, if they want to strengthen their batting, they could do that. However, they don't really have too much batting stocks in the reserve. So that's going to be really interesting. It's going to take a whole video to break down both the English and Australian squads, but just as a brief overview, I can see that their bowling strong as always, but their batting is going to be an area that English should target. Now, just taking a quick look at the Women's Ashes T20 overnight. Great game. Australia batted first and put 226 for the loss of 3 on the board, led by Meg Lanning. Hell of an innings, 133 off 63 balls. She just hit the ball so cleanly, ending up with 17 fours and 7 sixes. Now, I know a lot of guys aren't interested in women's cricket. However, the game's really developed in the last 3 years. I know it used to be quite boring. Women didn't tend to play a lot of shots, but the game's completely changed. There's a lot of power in there now. They play a lot of shots, and they're not the dull games we used to get. I'd highly recommend you guys watching some of it. It's very entertaining stuff, and the skill level of the woman is so impressive. Meg Lanning was hitting the ball so cleanly. I know a lot of guys say that they bring the boundaries in and all that, but she was putting the ball into the stands, so no questions there. But it was just a great game. Australia put that much on the board. It was just too much for the English in the end, 133 for 9. They've struggled a bit this Ashes series. So Meg Lanning was so impressive, and hopefully she can encourage young girls to keep playing the game, because I think it's quite a spectacle, and I really wish more guys would get involved and start watching it, because the game has come a long way. So I highly recommend you check that out. And just finally today in the cricketing news, Chris Gale's been picked in the West Indies squad to play India in the ODIs. Now, I love Chris Gale. I think he's one of the most exciting players of all time. He's definitely hands down the best T20 batsman of all time. A guy averaging 40 and striking at 160. It's going to be very hard for anyone to come over and knock him off the top spot in T20 cricket. He's just so much power, dominates the game. But at what point does he retire from international cricket? He's 39 years old now, coming up on 40. He's just finished the World Cup. Probably could have been the time to end his career there and keep playing the T20 circuit, because we all love seeing him there. But as for an international player, he can't really get between the wickets anymore. He's probably holding up a spot of a younger West Indian. Now, I love seeing Gale play, don't get me wrong. He's one of the characters of the game, and I'm excited to watch him every time he bats. However, I just don't know when he's going to call time. I thought the World Cup would have been the perfect time. Going into an Indian series, yeah, it's just interesting. Not only that, but his lack of ability to run between the wickets affects the other guy at the other end. Can't take quick singles, can't push quick twos. So he really needs to be scoring big runs to make his inclusion worth it, because it's costing guys at the other end. Now, yeah, I'd love to see him keep playing and playing well. However, he didn't particularly play well during the World Cup. So he's got to really make a decision on when to call his time on the international game. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. He has also spoke about trying to play a test match. I don't think he's got 5 days of cricket in him. I don't think he thinks he's got 5 days of cricket in him. But yeah, it's an interesting one to see when he is going to call his time on the game. But that's all for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Let me know in the comments any thoughts around any of this cricketing news, the Ashes squad, Chris Gale, anything along those lines. But thanks again so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can continue to grow. If you haven't seen already, follow my Chasing the Dream series, trying to push for a first class spot. So that's a huge challenge for me at the moment. But yeah, thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you again tomorrow.